Hi, I decided to film another video. I am here in my child's bedroom, kind of reminiscing and thinking that only 7 months ago, a bit more than that actually, I was giving birth to the most amazing human being. And I can't even believe that it was so long ago. So this video is going to be about my pregnancy. It's going to be part one of a series in which we'll be talking about my baby and how everything came about. So if you are pregnant, if you are thinking of getting pregnant, or if you've been through it, stick around and we're going to talk about everything that I went through from when I found out I was pregnant till the very end. So here we go. The first thing that I remember is the fact that me and my husband we wanted a baby, so we started right away. We knew we wanted to get married, but we thought it won't happen so fast. Well, we were wrong because it happened very fast. And I remember getting pregnancy test after pregnancy test so I would know right away. But when it did happen, the pregnancy test was saying it was negative when I was actually pregnant already. So I remember I found out around 2 months. So the first thing I did, weirdly enough, was I went back to work on my next day and I told my boss and I told my colleagues. I was very excited. Of course, I told my family first, but people were saying that it's too early for me to just tell everyone, but I was so excited about it that I just couldn't keep it in. So my boss said, go to the doctor, see what's up, and then we'll do anything that needs to be done. So I went to the doctor. I didn't know how to proceed, but I just went in there and told my GP that I was pregnant. And they were like, yeah, so, because apparently you need to find yourself a midwife and then talk to them about it. I was instructed how to get a midwife, and then from then on, it was time for me to find out all the other bits. So, the midwife, she first took out her wheel of fortune, wheel of whatever it's called, and she figured out the timeline, when I got pregnant and all that stuff. I believe it was on my second checkup I got to hear my baby's heart for the first time, which was absolutely surreal. I cannot explain to you how amazing that made me feel, because that's when I actually realized that, oh, this is happening and there's something living inside of me. And so I got home, I told my family and my husband about how it felt and everything, and then we moved forward with that. The next step was to see him, and we went to see him. We had our first scan, and we saw him for the first time, and I remember my husband squeezing my hand, and it was just magical. It was the most amazing thing up until that point, because there's more to come. I remember when it comes to cravings, the only thing I will say about that is that whenever my body needed something, it asked for it. So we're not talking about specific foods, we're just talking about, whether I need to eat fruit or more vegetables, or, for example, in the first part of my pregnancy, my body would constantly ask for Marmite. I started eating Marmite like a crazy person because it contained folic acid, I later found out. So my body was craving folic acid. Um, and there were other things that contained folic acid that kind of worked for me, and I started taking vitamins and stuff like that. So I do believe that cravings are the way in which your body tells you what you're missing. So I didn't get big very quickly, but when I did get big, I got big. So I popped up quite quickly. Yeah, probably after 5 months, because I remember I was at 5 months when I had my wedding, and when I look back at my wedding pictures, I can see that I wasn't actually that big. I was just okay. In fact, when we would go outside and meet people, they would tell me that I don't look pregnant, or, you know, I just look normal. So yeah, I popped after that, and so began the difficult period. I remember feeling very tired all the time. I didn't want to walk anywhere. In fact, after month 5, if I'm not mistaken, I left work. So it was just too bad that I couldn't bend. Everything hurt, you know. It was just too much. So besides the fact that I was tired, it was just a lot of things that kept happening, like the fact that I had to go to the toilet constantly. And this other thing was, whenever I would lie in bed, I would have to use my full body force to be able to get out of bed to go pee again, because that was one of the things that was constantly happening. Taking a bath was absolutely just the hardest thing that I had to do. Firstly, because I was so scared that I would fall, you know, and harm the baby. And the other thing was, it was so difficult to lift my body up with my arms and my legs because I was so heavy now. I gained a total of 20 kilos of weight. You can convert that if you need to, but I'm still struggling to get it off. Still after 7 months, oh well. So another thing would be the fact that whenever I would go out for a walk, I would feel pain in my lower abdomen, so much so that after I went for a walk, I would have to rest for really long periods of time. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I felt nauseous. Oh, speaking of nauseous, that was not one of the things that was a problem. I heard from a lot of girls that in the first 3 to 4 months, you absolutely vomit every day of the week. Well, I didn't have that. I had quite an easy pregnancy when it comes to that aspect, but in other ways, it was really, and I think that most of why it seemed so much is the fact that it was a new thing and that I had never been through it before. The movements I believe started also around 5 months, and it was then that it was a bit more visible. But this one thing that I really need to talk about is the fact that my baby, and he's still actually doing this, he would hiccup so often. So it was a matter of, I don't know, once or twice a day when I would just feel these, like, kind of like a heartbeat, like a rhythmic thing. I first didn't know what it was, but then I googled it and found out that it was hiccups. I told you this because it will come to play in one of the other parts. in my videos, it was worrying to me because I had read online that if your baby hiccups, it could mean that he had his umbilical cord around his neck. Stick around to find out if that was the case. But anyway, I really want you to leave any questions if you have any regarding how it was for me, and if you have any questions about what anything would feel like, if you have any worries or anything like that, maybe I can put my opinion in there and compare it to my situation. So yeah, that was my story on pregnancy. Of course, every story is different, but I hope you enjoyed it. Last thing I want to say is that my baby did go full term and then some, but I did want to come here and tell you the story of what I went through and how it was. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time. Bye!